and I don't care what Kyogre does this turn. That'll work. All right, Incineroar dies. Bowerdad here, and welcome to episode 19 of Why Did I Lose, the video series where I honestly review my shortcomings in my ranked game losses in order to make better decisions as a player and hopefully inspire others to do the same. Now, you'll notice my lead here. Palkia is looking pretty solid. Incineroar is looking a bit less so. A lot of my decision making on this first turn was based around this idea that I'm really afraid of what this Raichu is going to do. You'll notice that I'm selecting Max Quake into that slot, and as you saw a moment ago, I don't care that I have to throw Incineroar under the bus in order to get rid of this Raichu. I will choose to fake it out. You'll notice that after the Dynamax, it is going to be Raichu that does a fake out into Incineroar, which I was originally pretty excited about. I was like, cool, that's not a Nuzzle, that's not a Eerie Impulse. Palkia is going to continue to do its thing. However, because of that, Incineroar goes down without literally doing anything useful at all. Palkia is going to Max Quake. What I should have noticed on this turn is that given the Kyogre goes first, it is Choice Scarf. It is locked into that Water Spout move. I bring Raichu down to Sash, and I bring in my Zacian in order to apply some more offensive pressure, start maybe mounting a comeback. I decide to protect and to finish off the Raichu with another Max Quake. So that way I can get another special defense boost onto Palkia and get my first one onto Zacian so that it can better withstand the Kyogre's attacks on the following turn. Now, strangely enough, Raichu does Electro Web, which is not a move that I saw coming. Ultimately not a huge deal because Palkia is already slower, but it will prevent the Zacian speed from going down, which is good. This Water Spout from Kyogre thankfully does about jack squat. Quake is going to finish off the Raichu, and I'm going to get those special defense boosts that I was talking about for the next turn. After losing Raichu, my opponent brings out their own Zacian. They'll get that immediate attack boost thanks to the Intrepid Sword. And it is finally time, I decide, to go ahead and start attacking this Kyogre. I like to attack the partner Pokemon of Zacian with Wormwind in order to get the attack drop, in order to remove the attack boost from the Zacian. So their Zacian is going to do Beyblade, and mine will do the same. We have a little bit of a Beyblade trade here. Both Zacians do survive. My opponent's Kyogre will go next in order to drop my Zacian, but my Palkia will get the last word here with Max Wormwind, both knocking out the Kyogre and reducing that attack power on Zacian. Now I've got one Pokemon left, my Landorus. Thankfully, this Landorus is very well placed because my opponent's last Pokemon and their Dynamax is going to be Kartana. So this Intimidate is very valuable against these physical attackers. Now at this point, it looks pretty even-ish. The Pokemon count is 2-2. My opponent has suffered attack drops on both of the remaining Pokemon that they have left, whereas I have not. My Palkia is a little bit slower, but my opponent is at a huge advantage going into this endgame here for one very specific reason, and that's both of the Pokemon that they have remaining are faster than the two Pokemon that I have remaining. Of course, they have a Dynamax still, which we are seeing right now. But I think the more salient fact here is that both of his Pokemon are faster than both of mine. And they're going to get the Seal Spike off on Landorus. I survive it, but unfortunately I won't survive another one. Earthquake is going to come in. Zacian thankfully will go down, but I don't really have enough firepower or resources left to get rid of the Kartana. I don't have a very meaningful way to attack it with either of my Pokemon. And the opposing Kartana is in a position where they just get to pick a Pokemon, and that Pokemon's going to get KO'd. So at this point, there's nothing left really that'll save me, save for some critical hits, some RNG, what have you. I think Palkia had no hope regardless of what move it used. Landorus is going to fly, so I will get a slight moral victory here at the end because their Steel Spike is not going to connect. My Fly does a sad tiny violin amount of damage, and the Dynamax ends, and Kartana is going to be able to finish me off pretty handily. and unfortunately, that will close out the game for Landorus and myself. So I made two key mistakes, and both of them I made at the very, very first turn of the game, and they both are related. They have similar consequences. Before I even selected moves, I was too afraid of what Raichu was going to do. I was over scared of it, and I overcommitted to it. So I was overly scared of the Raichu, committed too many resources to it, and I Dynamaxed Palkia, which was the wrong Dynamax choice for this game. Kyogre is a special attacker that Palkia can deal with very effectively. There are so many Pokemon that Kyogre just sends to orbit. Palkia is not one of them. I didn't need to do a bunch of Quakes to get special defense boosts. I didn't need to Dynamax. I just had to square up against the Pokemon in front of me. Raichu has Focus Sash anyway. Even if it does something like Eerie Impulse, it's still 2 moves to take it out. And Kyogre gradually gets worse as I attack it, and I definitely don't need the extra Dynamax resources to deal with Kyogre either. The reason that is so important is because if you look at the team that my opponent has, it's Kyogre and then a bunch of physical attackers. Landorus would have been a much better Dynamax option for this game because, for one, I can get it out and intimidate all of the physical attackers on the team. It has a good matchup into most of them, and especially if I can set up some airstreams and some steel spikes, I'll really be set up for success. Whereas the role that Palkia played in the game would have been almost as effective done outside of Dynamax. For those 2 reasons, I really just punted immediately, and I was feeling those downstream effects. Zacian didn't get to do much, Incineroar got to do literally nothing. By the time Landorus showed up onto the scene, it was much too late because I already committed those resources into making Palkia into a strong early game. Now, if you're watching this and wondering why in the world I overcorrected so hard against my opponent's Raichu lead, if you haven't seen it yet, it actually comes with a very tragic backstory, and that's the very first episode that I did of Why Did I Lose? I'm going to put that episode up here. I know I've plugged it a couple of times, but it is really an excellent primer as to why I started doing this series in the first place. So take a look at that episode if you have not already. That's my time. I'll see you next week.